Hey folks, Sam from Warrior Poet Society, Green Line Tactical, and Tactical Night Vision Company. Today I'm going to talk about active versus passive aiming, what the differences are, some keys to success and stuff like that, and then some other little minutiae that goes involved, and maybe some history as well. So, active versus passive aiming. What is it? Well, let's break out the old whiteboard of knowledge and talk about it. Right, so active aiming is emitting energy forward from the firearm. It can be either visible or infrared or an other form of energy like SWIR or whatever. But technically that is active aiming. Anytime something, be it RF or photons or some type of radiation is emitted from the gun during the aiming process, that is active aiming. The target may or may not be able to see that energy, but you are still emitting energy, therefore it is active aiming. Passive aiming, no or very little energy is emitted towards the target during the aiming process. So that would be like looking through your scope or your optic. Traditionally, iron sights or red dot optics or scopes, magnified optics, that is passive aiming for the most part. Thermal systems, yes, there is some RF energy going on, but nothing is really being projected forward per se. So thermal is still technically passive aiming. Anyway, the keys to passive aiming success are night vision compatible optics, duh. Tall mounts. Tall mounts greatly aid in this process. And then mastering the aiming technique, because it's not necessarily something you can slap the tall mount on, go out and do right away, though it is much easier. In years past, we had, optics were what they were, and for passive aiming, we found that big tube optics, whether they were like big tube aim points like this Comp M4S, or even the EOTechs, especially EOTechs, had a serious advantage over the Micro Series optics that are so prevalent today. And that was because the window was bigger, it was easier to acquire the reticle and passively aim. There's some techniques involved when you were shooting passively with optics that didn't have tall mounts, meaning you would have to shoulder the gun as normal, but then you have to cant the gun in about 20 or 30 degrees to pick up the reticle. And it was definitely a harder skill to master, but like anything, you do it enough, you can do it just fine. I mean, I've made hits out to 120, 150 yards, rolling the gun in and picking up the reticle. So if you practice, you can do it. It's not a big deal. It just takes more practice, steeper learning curve. Progressing from there, for rifle-mounted stuff, we get into tall mounts. Tall mounts are anything above a lower 1/3, so 1.7, 193, 204, 205, 226, 233 mounts. This one happens to be a Unity fast mount, which is a 226, which is that's almost the sweet spot for me for passive aiming mounts. This gets the optic up in line with your goggles and everything like that, and it is very, very easy to quickly acquire the reticle and shoot. There are pros and cons to passive aiming. Passive aiming, generally a little bit more accurate. You can dial your dot size down so you don't have laser divergence or bloom. So you can shoot very, very accurate if you're a good shooter at night with passive aiming on a target. Damn near as accurate as you are during the day. Obviously, it doesn't emit any energy forward. Lasers eat up battery life, whereas, optics tend to have much better battery life than lasers do. So there's that. If you have multiple guys in a team, you're not necessarily distracted by all this different laser bloom and laser dots dancing all over the place, which is kind of handy. You can passively aim, switching shoulders for barricade stuff. It's a thing if you practice it. Additionally, red dot mounted optics on a pistol. We used to use, lasers and stuff like that. Lasers have very much fallen out of style, though there is some niche uses for them. But your optics on your handguns, it's all about passive aiming with pistols these days. So some of the disadvantages to passive aiming, you are totally reliant on the ambient light, be it infrared or visible light, both where you are and the target location, to be able to identify and make accurate hits. So sometimes it's going to be so dark that you can't necessarily see and identify the target. So you're either going to have to move and get better lighting conditions, or you are going to have to resort to active aiming and everything like that. But whatever. Having the ability to do both active and passive, and then switch very quickly between the two methods, is just, the mark not only of a good shooter, but it gives you advantages and choices. You have more choices to make during the shot process and everything like that. So if you're relegated to active aiming, which some of my guns are set up that way because they have magnified scopes, and I can't necessarily run a clip on. Sometimes I can, but some guns they're not optimized for night shooting. But any of my guns that are optimized for night shooting have a very good white light, a really good laser illuminator. This happens to be a Maul, and then they are set up and optimized for passive night shooting with tall mounts and stuff like that. So if you want a soup to nuts solution, this is the setup that you want. You want to have multiple tools in the toolbox to work through problems and solve them as necessary, whether it's with light and lasers and photons and stuff like that, and then ultimately with fast hot metal, or not engaged, because you were able to properly identify whether it was through your goggles passively or using the white light or laser. Anyway, that is active versus passive aiming. If you're not on the passive train yet, I suggest you at least try it. Again, it's a really good skill to have. It's 2020. We shoot our guns day or night, rain or shine, from muzzle to 500 meters, both with lasers and with optics, obviously. Pistols too. I will shoot this pistol out to 200 yards and make hits with it. So, that's active versus passive aiming. Check it out. Anyway, like, comment, share, subscribe. If you need to get a hold of me, I'm at TNVC. Don Edwards and I, we're kicking off Night Fighter season. It's going strong. We got several sold out classes, and I'm going to be working with John Lovell again this year and next. So hopefully I'll catch you guys on the range. Train, buy ammo. Stock up on it. I know prices are kind of crazy right now, but be judicious with your application of ammo and stuff like that for training and whatnot. But anyway, hope to see you guys on the range. Have a good holiday season. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year and all that stuff. Be safe, and Epstein didn't kill himself.